A little bit of the chapstick just before you get going. Well, assisted connection devices, those ACDs, seem to be working a little bit better. Good. Finally. Clarification on using abbreviations. I have a secret. And OBS software. Learning how to spend a lot of my day actually trying to figure that stuff out. Delta reading continues. Congress continues. More importantly, Double 11 is coming up. Woohoo! Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. Folks, I am Steven Sersky. This here is my audio blog. I live in China, live in Beijing, and I am an ESL teacher, so if you don't like listening to us go on, you can shut off right now and go do something else. However, if you want to hear about some of the things that are currently happening in the city, some of the things that are keeping me busy, and I don't know, some food for thought as well, I think is what I come up with quite a bit here on this daily audio digest, published Monday to Friday, and I put all the archives up on my website, stevensersky.com, but also I stream this through all the majors, YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google, you name it. It should be up there, and if it's not, hit me up on my website, stevensersky.com, and I will set you up with a feed or an email or whatever it is to get you in touch with this audio digest. So, what is going on? Okay, so these assisted connection devices, I know yesterday I was going on about it and how it wasn't working on Android systems. And so that has now changed. I also mentioned before that my iPad wasn't connecting very well. And I was actually looking for another means to create an assisted connection device or an assisted connection in general, which requires see, this is what I don't know, is that it requires using something like a cloud service, such as like Linode or Amazon Web Services, or there's another one, DreamHost, I think, or no, there's another one. And what you would do is install this software, Open Assisted Connection Device, and install it onto a drive or into this cloud in a folder, and then you'd be able to port through to that connection, and that way it's sort of it's not flying under the radar, but it's not on the radar. So in theory, the connection should be a little bit more stable. That's what I was thinking about doing. Haven't done it yet. I will let you know if I do. I know there are easier methods out there, or like a bit more commercial methods available, but I'll tell you, sometimes they aren't working. It can be a little bit aggravating. But all that being said, they are improving now. The Congress is continuing. I don't think Xi Jinping has been reelected just yet, but he did make a long speech on Sunday. I've been reading these newspapers that I've gathered. I haven't bought any more because I'm like, how much more can I? They're not expensive. We're talking like it was just under 4 kwai for Renmin, Rabaul, and Global Times. They, it's not like they aren't hard-hitting journalism. Actually, no, that's not true. It is hard-hitting journalism, because if you ever wanted to see the flip side of the coin, you read something like the Global Times and you're just like, well, yeah, I get, if you want to look at it that way, that is one way to look at things now, isn't it? And so it is very much hard-hitting journalism, because they are hitting hard at the United States, the West, basically. I mean, and a lot of it, actually, I would say, is a lot of anti-American imperialist sentiment. That's a lot of what it is. It goes on to boast about China being this up-and-comer, or, coming of its own sort of thing, and, it doesn't deserve to receive the negative attention that it gets in the Western media and by Western imperialist powers and stuff like that. The other thing that I've noticed is that it does make reference, or a lot of these articles do make reference to things that you might that may have been covered at some point in a lot of Western media, but aren't covered very often. I don't have any examples because I wasn't really planning on talking about this today. I was thinking about actually doing a special on reading the newspaper, but the idea being that they refer to these historical events that have helped shape not just Chinese policy, but policy around the world. And they aren't things that you would sort of think about or look up unless your attention was drawn to it in a very non-mainstream source, basically. So it is very much a contrast of attitude and opinion and writing uh, compared to with Western media outlets such as Wall Street Journal and probably the New York Times as well. Although I don't read the New York Times and other, like, definitely CNN and outlets like that. But anyway, so the Congress does continue. Kind of one of the questions that kind of popped up actually is like, if he gets reelected for a third term, and he's outlining this policy for until 2035. Like, is he intending to stay in power for that long as well? I mean, how is this? I mean, it's a little bit bizarre to think like that. Um, but at the same time, I mean, he changed the Constitution. I guess the question becomes, like, he changed the Constitution or was able to get the Constitution changed to get a third term. What happens after this one? Like, is he, or is it something else that's going to happen? Like, is he going to take a step aside and, elect and put in favor for someone else who can take over from him? Because he's 69 years old. He's going to be 74 by the time he completes this term, if he gets it. It's still not for sure, but I mean, chances are he will. So that being the case, it's like he'd have to change the Constitution, or he doesn't have to. The Constitution has to change again in order for him to stay in power, right? Like, that's sort of what's going on. Anyway, so that's been happening, and no doubt that's contributed to a little bit of what these assisted connection devices having some troubles as of late. A clarification on using abbreviations. I may have been a little bit harsh yesterday in using the abbreviations. Just to clear up, I mean, if you've listened to this podcast, even this first opening 7 minutes is probably giving you a good indication of how I normally talk. If you go back to yesterday's episode, or any commentary on the Russian invasion of Ukraine, sometimes I use some rather harsh language, strong language, and I got thinking, maybe I was a little bit hard on the company for using these abbreviations. They abbreviated the MI, major incident. This bothers me. So why don't you just call it major incident? The reason why is because you can't say what really happened, which any normal human being, they would ask, well, so what happened? Common response would be, I don't know, something broke. No idea. And so what do? I don't know. Wait. Well, who's going to fix it? I don't know. Probably the IT guys. And what is IT going to do? Turn it off and turn it back on again. Or plug it back in because someone kicked the cable out. I don't know. But honestly, yeah, shit broke. Wait. That's basically what the real language would be. I guess you can't say that in an email because, as I found out, if you write the word shit in a work email, you get contacted very quickly. It ripples through pretty quickly. And people are like, Stephen, don't write that word in a work email. I'm like, okay, fine. So I won't do that again. Yeah. Right on. I do have a secret. Yes, last week I was talking about eating McDonald's, having McDonald's. And I was like, I'm not going to have that. Damn that. Boo on those people who have McDonald's. It's terrible for you. Well, I broke. Monday morning after my workout, I had my typical post-workout meal of cottage cheese, almonds, and blah, blah, blah. But I was like, well, if I just worked out and I just burned like 700 or 800 calories or whatever it is before breakfast, I'm like, you know what? Let's get some McDonald's. So I ordered one of each of the breakfast sandwiches that they have, like the sausage and egg, the chicken and egg, or whatever it is, and there's another one. It's I guess it's supposed to be bacon and egg. I'm not sure if it was actually bacon though. It was a different. It wasn't like the back bacon that you normally get. It's like processed. Whatever. I mean, I haven't had it in a very long time. Can't say I have it again very soon. But I was glad to at least try it out, see what it is. It cost me what, 64 kwai, so $12 Canadian or thereabouts, $11 Canadian. and that will sort of satisfy my McDonald's cravings for the next month, 2 months, sort of thing. I think on average, Western fast food, I would have maybe once a month. I'm thinking this because back in September, beginning of September, it was Burger King. Before that, I think I had McDonald's with the girlfriend on one Sunday morning. Instead of having the Chinese breakfast, we went for McDonald's instead. But as I mentioned before, instead of having this Western fast food, typically if I want something like not as healthy, I would go for the Chinese breakfast, or for dinner I would have like one of these Chinese sort of takeout places like I love the Tang Su Li Ji and there's some meat pockets that they sell, and I have no idea what they're called. I looked up they're like meat pancakes, but they're not pancakes. They're meat pockets. I looked up the word before and I forget it. Escaping my mind at the moment. But yeah, I don't normally have McDonald's, and I never really promote having McDonald's for a lot of people. Certainly not on a regular basis. I mean, it's maybe every now and then. That's fine, but if you're eating that stuff on a regular basis, I don't know about you, it makes me feel horrible. And we're talking like 2 meals in a row sort of thing. If I had 2 dinners out like that, not from the same place, but similar places, I don't feel good. And I've noticed with all of my sort of healthy eating or trying to be a little bit better in my food choices, if I skip more than a day of having raw vegetables for lunch, I don't feel good. I don't know what it is, but you guys can try it. Tell me. I don't know how many people are actually going to try this. Oh, yeah, Steve, sure, I'll just go do what you do. Get a bunch of raw vegetables and start chewing that broccoli. Delish. What kind of dressing do you use? No dressing. Plain raw broccoli. Okay, also, I do have to clarify, the last couple of weeks I've also been having dressing with my broccoli. I find broccoli is one of the only vegetables that actually goes well with dressing, or dressing only goes well with broccoli. So I was, because I want to see what the different types are, the Thousand Islands, both the French one and the Kewpie version. And then there's also, I tried the Dijon and the French. And I think I just stick with the Thousand Islands, to tell you the truth. Yeah, I since I work from my apartment, my domicile, my current living residence, I'm not so concerned about having to wash as many dishes, like my food containers that I would have to normally take to and from work. So that's one thing that's sort of changed my view on dressing. But I don't have dressing very often. I just buy a selection of fruits and vegetables that I sort of make it. Some of them are a bit more bitter, like your broccoli and your celery, and some are a little bit sweeter, like the green peas. And then I also have grapes or whatever the seasonal fruit is that's cheap. I don't usually get one of those as well. But yeah, try it out. I mean, a basket of veggies a day, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, if anything, it's going to help you. Try that. Try it for a week, and then try to go back to your. Actually, not even a week. Go for it. It's got to be like 3 or 4 days, because if you go to the supermarket and you get your vegetables and your fruit, they're only going to last. Like in the summer, they last for about 4 or 5 days, maybe. In the summer, they last far shorter, like maybe only 3 days, sort of thing. So try it for 3 or 4 days. See what you think. Raw vegetables only. We're talking broccoli, green peas, string beans, radishes, bell peppers, grapes, or another fruit. Maybe even like cucumbers. Try that. See what you think. Does it work? Is it? When you look at it, and you don't have to take like a handful of each, and that fills up your basket pretty quickly. I'm telling you, and you will be full after this. You won't have much more room to eat after you finish chewing through all your raw broccoli. Oh, enjoy. Okay, so, but what else was I working on today? Well, two other things. I was doing a lot of this Delta reading taking a look at some of the guideline answers. And actually, we got the our tutor sends a summary every Wednesday or so. And I was looking at some of the answers that these other people are giving, and I'm like, geez, these guys they actually know what they're talking about. I didn't even attempt the exam tasks this week because I was like, I still don't really understand what I'm like. I understand what I'm supposed to do, but when you give me a sentence, I'm like, wow, what's a word? I mean, it's wood. It's a modal. It's, you know, actually, I wouldn't even say that. I'd be like, it's wood. WOLD. I don't know. It's WOULD. There we go. Uh, and I mean, how do you break that down into three sentences that they've given you? This is what I have to work on. Is like when I see a sentence, I got to razor and be like, okay, this is bing, bing, bang, boom, boom. These are the constituents part. Here's the clauses. Here's the subclauses. The because, conjunction, the blah, 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 blah. You know, this is the modal. This is the base infinitive. This is a reduced passive progressive something. Oh, was it reduced passive clause or something? Reduced passive infinitive? And you're going, what? Who would ever refer to it as that? I mean, if I ever showed up to an English teaching class and someone used the phrase, it's a reduced passive infinitive, you're going, can you say that in actual English? Again, goes back to the abbreviations. What is that? Like, how am I going to use this information ever again? Reduced passive infinitive. Again, I understand. This is the whole reason for the Module 1 and the Delta course, or the Delta trilogy of courses, is that you, as a English language educator, and someone who, if you're taking the Delta, you're looking to buff up your terminology so that you can talk to other people about this, and there's a consistent language to refer to certain things about the language itself. I mentioned this meta language before, so you're talking about the language itself, not just, you know, specific examples of the reduced passive infinitive, which is basically just a verb that could have to in front of it, but is in the past, in the passive sense. So it would be to something by something, because that's what the passive does. The object has something done to it. All of this I remember from my Latin studies days. I never ever thought that this would ever be applied to English at all. I did actually, truthfully, didn't really know that English had an infinitive. I mean, I thought it should, because all languages should have an infinitive at some point, especially if they're Western languages, European languages. But given that, you know, English requires two words to make the infinitive, and the Delta program explains this, Latin only requires one word, right? Because it's an inflected language. Same with Greek. It's an inflected language, so the ending of the word changes, whereas in English, you need two words to signal the infinitive. Anyway, blah, 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 blah. Looking at this stuff, and I was taking a look at Paper 1, Task 4 today, which is where you have to break down this form of meaning and use of a word given to you in a sentence. And I'm looking at these example answers and going, geez, this is very, very impressive. Wow, these guys must be good. So I go over to these guideline answers that you can find online. They have a lot of examples of this. And I'm like, oh, basically all they did was they looked at what the task was asking for in the course, like this past week, and then they looked at the example guidelines and went, okay, well, I'm just going to take that structure and apply it to this question. And sure enough, you can do that. I mean, so that's what I have to start doing going forward, because I only have another 6 weeks until the exams. That being the case, I still got to work. There's 3 areas I got to work on. It's got to be phonology, it's going to be grammar, and it's going to be terminology. Because again, I don't talk in abbreviations, and I don't talk in highfalutin language. Most times, I talk in a lot of F sharps and SHhh's, not reduced passive infinitives and MIs and other abbreviations. Oh, boy. Yes, that was part of the fun today. Other fun today was actually trying to figure out some more about this OBS software. I've been trying to make my streaming life a little bit easier. Because what I do right now, I have this blank plane behind me, this blank blind, a set of blinds that I use that blocks out the background of all the crap that I don't want to put away in my apartment. Well, I was thinking, could I blur out the background or something? And so I spent some time playing around with Zoom, and I was thinking about using Google Meet to use their blurring technology and then patch that through OBS, through a screen sharing process. It wasn't working. There was too much latency. There's too much lag in between the feed. There is a plugin you can get for OBS Studio, which is what I use to do all my streaming and stuff like that. It's called Stream Effects, and it did work. The thing is, there's a YouTube video. Oh, I should have got the guy's name. I can't remember. But how to blur OBS Studio. How to blur background in OBS Studio, I think is what I searched for, and he explained it very well. There's two methods to do it. I mean, but the one I was trying to do is using this plugin, Stream Effects, and it creates a blur behind you, and you create like a little mask that is like a little box around your face basically, and it blurs out everything else behind you using a Gaussian blur, or Gaussian, whatever, using a blur that takes care of the background. And so I tried this out, and I was successfully getting a blurred background. The problem is, when you have a whole bunch of shit behind you, and you just blur it out, all it looks like is a blurred pile of shit. So, it didn't make a difference. I'm like, I still looked at him and went, that looks hideous. I mean, not only does it look like there's just a lot of crap that I don't want to show people behind me, it's now blurred out, so it looks like a complete mess, and people will still sit there going, what is that he's got there? It's not a dildo. Those aren't just lying around in my apartment, despite what some might want to believe. No, Steve. Yeah, anyway, whatever. All right. So yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out today. The other thing actually got me thinking about this, because if you're ever getting into streaming or podcasting and stuff like that, there's certain things that you will have to probably do on a regular basis. I've talked about automating stuff quite a bit. So there's two portions to my streaming setup that I got to take care of. Number one is the software stuff. So I use 3 programs here. I use Camo Studio, CAMO. That plugs into my old cell phone camera that I use as a webcam. Number 2, I use OBS Studio to set up the streams and connect everything. So I have the camera, the microphone, and the streaming key to my online platform. So that's another one. And then the other one I have going on is YouTube as well, because that's the stream that I'm doing on a regular basis. So that is, I need those 3 open, and I can automate those opening at certain times of the day, much the same way that I used to I automate like a stock page opening up and everything at around 9:05, 9:10, something like that. But it's time-based. You can plug this into your calendar on your Mac, and when it hits that time, calendar will check the time, and if it hits this warning that there's an event, it will trigger an automated program that will then open up these different software programs if you want, and it can have it all ready on your different screens and everything. It's a fantastic way to do it. I haven't done this yet, but this is something I'm thinking about doing. That's part one. The other part that I have to do, which is time of Fanla, which is a little bit more, this is where I get into the point like, do I really want to do this? This is why I was trying to figure out how to blur the background. I got to set up the lights, and I got to set up this background screen so I can block out all the crap that's behind me. And it creates a better focus. I'm not going to lie. It's a little bit better. If I could have a simpler way to do it, I would. But right now it looks pretty decent. And it sounds decent as well. Because I'm using my H4n as the input microphone into my computer. So that helps make that sound a lot better. If you are listening on Anchor.fm or any of the streaming services, not YouTube, this is recorded on my cell phone. Okay, so I have 2 different recordings. I have one, the Zoom H4n that's going into the computer, and that's for the live stream. And then the one that you're listening to, probably through Anchor.fm or through my website, that is all recorded on my cell phone, just a handheld sort of thing. So if you ever notice a difference between the audio feeds, that's exactly why. That's what's happening. But why don't I record it all at once? Well, because the cell phone came first, and I wanted to be consistent. And number two, I have been looking at trying to do this all on my iPad, which is one of the original reasons why I got the iPad. To tell you the truth, is so I could live stream with a microphone plugged in and everything. All right, well, I'm going to stop boring you with all of those details about the happy-go-luckies that what I do every evening, basically, while you guys are having your pints. I'm at home sitting in front of a camera, talking about how to set up a camera to talk to yourself. Some people think it's odd to talk to a camera all day. Strangely enough, I've been trained to do it quite well. More importantly, Double 11 is coming up. Hope you guys got your shopping lists ready. I know I've got a few items that I'm looking to get, so it's about 5 weeks away. Less than 5 weeks, sorry, it's less than 4 weeks away. November 11th. Remembrance Day for the rest of the world, but shopping day here in China. Okay, folks, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks for listening. I appreciate it. Show notes, tracks, and vids up on my website, stevensixty.com. Hope you're keeping well out there, breathing it was fresh air until about this morning. But get your runs in. It's still kind of cool, but don't let that stop you. Put on your long underwear and go for a run anyway. We'll leave it there. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again. Bye-bye.